Why would you do this to me, Flash? I've never done anything to hurt you. This is just so mean. Well, we've all had a bit of time to recover from last season's devastating. While we might still be a little bit emotional, that doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of things to be excited for. This is shaping up to not only be the most exciting season of The Flash, but perhaps the entire Arrowverse. Not only is our favorite speedster going up against new villains, but the big crossover is tackling a new kind of crisis. So let's jump right into everything you need to see before Season 6 of The Flash. Season 5 Recap. So let's just jump right in with a quick recap of what happened in The Flash Season 5. We don't have a lot of time, so let's do it in Flash time! Barry and Iris' daughter Nora arrives from the future. She becomes Flash's sidekick, XS. We find out that XS has been secretly working with an imprisoned Reverse Flash to time travel. Team Flash figures it out and Barry takes Nora back to the future. Nora returns home and they all make up. Cisco starts dating a new girl. Reverse Flash has been using XS to change time so that he can escape. They fight him in the future, but XS ends up getting erased from existence. Barry and Iris mourn. Cisco takes a metahuman cure. There's also a pair of villains, both named Cicada, but let's just pretend they didn't happen and move on. New villain. There's a huge question about any new season of The Flash. Who's the big new bad? This year, we got a special treat as a former superhero show alum makes his way to the CW. Mohinder himself from Heroes. Actor Sendil Ramamurthy is going to play the bad guy Bloodwork. Unlike most of the show's major villains, Bloodwork is a rather new addition to the Flash pantheon. The character was created in 2017's Flash number 30. He's a hemophiliac coroner who is desperate to cure his condition. If you've read any comic before, you know that a scientist that does experiments on himself always becomes a supervillain. His superpower is that he can control blood. Yes, Avatar: The Last Airbender fans, he's basically a bloodbender. This version of the character is apparently an old friend of Caitlin Snow's. $10 says they become a couple until he goes evil. She does have a type, you know. He even is reported to join Team Flash before going full mad scientist. Evidently, the upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover creates a unique relationship between him and Barry. Both of them have to face something horrible that happens in the big special. Considering that special is about the destruction of entire universes, there's probably a lot of horrible to go around. More on that later. Return of XS? XS was without a doubt the best part about Season 5. Jessica Parker Kennedy injected the show with the burst of energy it's needed for years. The father-daughter superhero sidekick dynamic between her and Barry was just adorable. Barry and Wally never really felt like a proper dynamic duo, so this was delightful. Fun fact, Kennedy is actually older than both actors who play her parents. I know she's a time traveler, but that actress definitely doesn't seem 35 years old. It was absolutely heartbreaking when Nora was erased at the end of last season. It was like having to relive Infinity War all over again. Barry and Iris are going to spend the first part of Season 6 mourning Nora, but possibly not the whole season. Luckily, they may not have to wait that long. One of the biggest rumors about Season 6 is that Nora Allen will somehow come back. Now, I know what you might be asking, since she was literally erased from existence. Well, The Flash has never been one for worrying about physics or logical consistency. My money is that the Monitor will somehow show up to save her right as she is getting erased. He and Oliver Queen seem to be assembling a multiversal Avengers. And who would be better for that team than XS? In order to get more into that subject, we just have to talk about the biggest part of every Arrowverse show in 2019, the Crisis. Crisis on Infinite Earths. The Flash has been teasing a big Crisis on Infinite Earths event since the very first season. The first tease for it came in the form of a future headline in Thawne's lair. That one read that Flash was going to disappear in a crisis in 2024. That seemed like quite a stretch for a possible plotline in what would have been the 10th season of the show. Well, last season's finale changed all of that. Assumingly due to Nora and Thawne's time travel hijinks, the date on the picture was changed to 2019. For those that have read Marv Wolfman and George Perez's classic comic, they know how big a deal this is. If you haven't, go read it immediately. Though if you don't want to do that, let me give you a rundown. This being called the Anti-Monitor is destroying entire universes. A separate being named the Monitor assembles a team of heroes across the multiverse to stop him. In the course of events, both Supergirl and Barry Allen meet their grisly ends. Allen's is especially brutal as he sacrifices his life and ends up running until he becomes a skeleton. If this is what they're hinting at, we're all in for some pain. It looks like the Arrowverse is going to take things in a different direction. season. Last year's crossover Elseworlds seemed to change the narrative. Kara and Barry were about to sacrifice their lives to save the universe when they got saved themselves. At the last second, Oliver Queen made some sort of secret deal with the Monitor. This deal ends up saving both the heroes, but at some mysterious cost. Arrow Season 7 hinted that Oliver would be making the ultimate sacrifice for them. Still, it's doubtful that there won't be any consequences to Team Flash during the big event. Barry might survive, but that doesn't mean that everything else will be fine. He still has a lot to lose. New Wells. Tom Cavanagh absolutely stole the show in The Flash Season 1. The show seemed like it would never be able to survive the loss of his amazing talent. Luckily, it has never had to find out. In Season 2, the show introduced Earth 2's Harry Wells. From then on, the show has introduced a new Wells in almost every season. Season 3's Wells was the rather worthless but lovable H.R. Wells. He didn't do much outside of twirling drumsticks around. Did he even play drums? But he was still pretty great. In the end, he sacrificed his life to save Iris from Savitar. Season 4 saw the return of Harry Wells. He ended up destroying his own mind to defeat the Thinker. While he seemed happily to go back to Earth 2, it's pretty likely that he'll show up in the Crisis. Hopefully it won't be him watching helplessly as Earth 2 is destroyed. Last season we got the very divisive French detective Sherlock Wells. Armed with a terrible accent and a brilliant mind, he ended up being quite the asset against Cicada. He ran off with his love interest and Cavanaugh's Darrow and Darrow co-star, Kimberly Williams-Paisley, Renee Adler. So Season 6's Harrison Wells has big shoes to fill. This year's version might be a little different though. Cavanagh is reportedly playing Pariah in the big crossover. In the comics, this character is the only survivor of his universe who is forced to watch as other universes explode. It was actually his experiments that led to the Anti-Monitor starting his chain of destruction in the first place. That could easily be an alternate universe Wells, though this one would be much grimmer. Reverse Flash. Cavanagh is going to be playing multiple parts during this year's crossover. Not only is he going to be playing Pariah, but he will also return as the Reverse Flash. At the end of last season, Thawne escaped getting erased by time and whispered to Barry that he'd see him during the next crisis. This was a not-so-subtle nod to Thawne being a major part of the crossover. This time, he may not be an antagonistic force. Thawne goes through quite a lot to escape getting destroyed. It's hard to think that he'll be okay with his entire universe getting destroyed. That means that he might end up joining Team Monitor. While that's certainly going to make Barry furious, he's a pretty good ally to have. Some even think that he'll end up being the sacrifice instead of his arch-enemy. This would be quite the sick twist if Thawne ends up saving Barry after bringing him so much pain. It's hard to think of how Cavanagh's going to have enough time to do all of this. They could always grab Matt Letcher to play the character again. He is technically Thawne's real face after all. Hey, the last time Letcher played the part was in Legends of Tomorrow, and he was captured by the Black Flash. How is he even still alive? Are we just going to pretend that that didn't happen? I guess it's not like anything in Legends of Tomorrow makes a lot of sense, so who cares? New costume. That's right, folks, it's time for the annual Flash fashion show. Let's roll out the red and yellow carpet and debate about which season's Flash is best dressed. The first one is a pretty simple design. It's a dark red costume with a red insignia instead of a white one. This one should get credit for being the first one to really go for it. Arrow was a really grounded, gritty show. They easily could have chickened out on the campiness of this costume. Instead, they were bold and decided to go for a pretty comic-accurate suit. Let's give this one 3 lightning bolts. Things got more comic accurate in Season 2. It's mostly the same aside from the addition of the white insignia. This might seem like a small change, but it made a big difference with the fans. That's why the Season 2 look gets 4 lightning bolts. The Season 3 costume wasn't much of a change, but Season 4 saw the true perfection of the comic-accurate look. This one played a little bit more with the bolts across the chest. This one gets 4.5 lightning bolts. Things went weird with the Season 5 look. It's just a strange design that makes Grant Gustin look really small with a giant head. It's just a mess. 1 lightning bolt. That brings us to Season 6. From the promo photographs, it looks interesting. It has kind of a more aerodynamic, practical feel to it. Still, it feels like an unnecessary departure from the early season suits that worked just fine. We'll give this one tentatively 2.5 bolts. Maybe it'll look better on screen. Cisco. Last year, there was a huge controversy about the Flash cast. There was a rumor that Carlos Valdez, who plays Cisco Ramon, would be leaving the show. Fans absolutely lost it. I mean, what is the Flash without Cisco? Who would name all the bad guys? Turns out that these rumors were thankfully overblown, or maybe there were contract negotiations that we weren't aware of. Valdez set the record straight. saying he would be returning for Season 6. There's going to be a great new world for Cisco, too. Last year, he not only found love, but also cured himself of his superpowers. This means that Vibe's days on Team Flash are over, but Cisco's are practically just beginning. Kid Flash. Kanan Lonsdale has not been subtle about being happy to leave the Flash. He even had a lyric about quitting the series in a single Rainbow Dragon. Though he did have a very interesting Vogue photo shoot with movie Flash Ezra Miller. Probably as close to a crossover as we'll ever get. This year, though, Lonsdale is returning to the series. The show is definitely going to need him, too. Nora getting erased from time is going to make Team Flash pretty somber. They're gonna need someone to bring smiles back to the team. Could he get a cooler name than Kid Flash, though? Seriously, that name is so lame. The beginning of the end? Arrow is closing out its universe-spawning 8-season run in 2019. So, with the Arrowverse losing its titular show, it's only natural to ask, is The Flash next? According to the cast, right now the answer is maybe. The show is scheduled to run through Season 7, but there have been no plans past that. As far as anyone knows, The Flash could be going the way of Arrow in its 7th season too. So watch The Flash and enjoy it while you can. One day, very soon, you may have to live without it. That's a depressing note to end on here, so here are a few ridiculously adorable Season 5 bloopers to make you smile. There you have it, everything you need to know about the upcoming Season 6 of The Flash. Were there any cool rumors that we missed? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to The Binger.